So this webinar is going to be part one of two. This is really called Getting Ready for 2021 Summer Scout Camps. Some housekeeping, we're going to try to keep this to 45 minutes or less and then give us some time to go through some questions. Again, you can submit question using the GoToWebinar question drop down in the sidebar. And the video will be posted online this afternoon or tomorrow under the training videos section when you log into DoubleKnot. So an agenda for today, really what we're going to dive into is building a program. Group versus individual, your options for when you build the shell of a program. Next, we're going to go into sessions, which are really your weeks of camp. We're going to talk about adding merit badge classes, and then finish up configuration with payment schedules. So this is really going to focus on getting your program to a point of testing. So the goal of this webinar is to give you the basis to build the structure of your summer camp. And then what we're going to do next in the following webinar is really going to polish off that camp. And what that means is we're going to talk about forms, adding additional weeks of camp, reporting options, and then kind of give you a go live checklist. So what items are really important before we actually make this live to our leaders. I'm going to jump right in. So you will see my page here. I am logged into DoubleKnot under our test demo site. So keep in mind there are some different wording you may see throughout the application because this is a test environment, but 99% of it's going to be exactly the same of what you see. Before I do really dive into this, I do want to give a brief kind of overview or kind of lay some expectations. So this webinar is going to assume that you have a base level knowledge of DoubleKnot and building events. I'm not going to spend, I could spend an hour and a half going through each individual item on the program build. If you are new to DoubleKnot and need base level training, please reach out to us through support, which is support@doubleknot.com. And just say I was on the webinar, I need a base level training on DoubleKnot, and we'll get back to you with all the details on that. Also, under user manuals on the main page, we do have program documentation. So there is creating and editing programs, managing program registrations, and these are very helpful step-by-step guides to building a program. So if you like to learn like that, or you want to use this as you watch the recording of this, that's great. It will sure go into a lot more detail than what I'm going to go into today. So I'm logged into DoubleKnot as an administrator, and I'm going to start here going to event management and going underneath the programs tab. So programs, again, really are an advanced version of calendar activities. The program module was built for Boy Scout Summer Camp, and really what it allows you to do is have scheduled sub-activities under a parent event, which is Boy Scout Merit Badge registration. So you have a parent event like a University of Scouting over the weekend or summer camp. And underneath that parent activity, you have scheduled sub-activities. And in your case, those are merit badges. So underneath the Programs tab, what I'm going to do is go to New Program to the right. And really what stage we're at now is building the shell of the program and deciding what type of program we're going to build. So the first thing you're going to see is program name. Now this is not an individual week of camp. This is the camp as a whole. So we can call this, 2021. Effective date is going to be the first day of week 1 of summer camp. So you can use the calendar, you can type this in, but I could say the first week is going to be June 7th. That's the first day of week 1. The end date is the last day of the last week of your camp. So I could say it's all the way through July 16th. So again, the effective date is the first day of week 1, and the end date is the last date of the final week. You have active and not active. I always select active here because you control availability through registration begin date. So I would always leave that at active. Now, event type. This is very important. So group sign up and individual sign up. So group sign up is really designed for a event, or in your case, a camp, where one individual is really going to be managing a registration of a number of campers. So really good for Boy Scouts summer camp because you have a leader or a parent volunteer who's in charge of signing up the whole troop for camp. Individual sign up is more geared toward a parent registering their scout for an event. Individual is really good for Merit Badge University or a Merit Badge Day, where the scout leader doesn't really need to sign up. They could. Individual doesn't mean that it's just one person per registration. It's just it's a simpler design that allows a parent or leader just manage a registration for their child, basically. Group sign up, again, is designed for a leader to be managing an entire registration of their troop. And it also allows a lot more additional options, which we're going to discuss below. So I'm going to set this to group sign up. Require facility, I'm going to set this to no, but within the program module, which we'll talk about in the next webinar, you can add facilities, meaning they can pick their campsite on the property. You can build that in. Limit registration changes. This is very important. So you basically can tell the system how to behave when someone updates a registration. So you can tell the system the leader can change the number of scouts, cannot decrease, cannot increase, or cannot change the number of registrants. So that's very beneficial for a lot of the councils we work with, because at a certain point in time, you're locked into your registration. And we want you to be able to go in and manage the registration, but we don't want you to be able to increase or decrease the number of scouts and adults. We lock that number in and you can't change it. So this allows you to control that aspect of the registration. Registrants and classes, I would always set this to save updated session event selections. So this was a feature we added in specifically for Boy Scout councils. And when a leader goes in to update a registration, they normally have to go through and save the registration because Boy Scout councils want that person to make a payment if the payment is due. A problem we had with that is that many leaders didn't want to make the payment, so they wouldn't save the registration and they would lose all of the updates that they were making to the registration that day. So they would go in, update a kid's merit badge schedule, and they would lose all that data. So with this save updated session event selections, even if checkout is not completed, it just saves it automatically. I would do that just to avoid the headache of an angry scout leader yelling at you or sending you an angry email. General instructions for registration homepage. You'll see where this shows up later. I'm going to give you a visual on this, but these are instructions that show up on the page that leaders are signing up for merit badges. The next option you have here is, what do you want the leader to be able to do? Do you want them to be able to just reserve a block of space? Do you want them to be able to name scouts and adults, or both? So we have a number of councils that open up summer camp registration almost a year before the camp actually starts. So we have a lot of councils that have this in-demand camps where they want people to sign up way in advance, but really they don't need them to name people attending. We just need them to reserve a block of space. So just tell me how many adults and scouts are coming. So what the system allows you to do with group registration is really control what's available to the leader when they come into the registration. So as I said, we have a lot of councils that want to come in, reserve a block of space, and make a payment, a deposit. You can do that with group registration. So you could check this to reserve a block, and the only thing you could make available is reserve a block of space. Tell us the number of people. All these other options you can hide using this checkbox. So you don't want them to see activity sign up, which is merit badges. You don't want them to see check for scheduling conflicts. You don't want them to see facility selection. You can uncheck these options and then control what the leader sees when they go into the registration. And again, we'll get a visual on this at the end of the webinar, so you can kind of, I'll come back and compare this so you can get a visual aid, so to speak, on this. So right now I'm going to leave these as is. And again, we're going to come back to this, especially in the second webinar, and talk about customizing these fields and what they mean. We really, again, want to get, today we want to focus on getting a shell of our camp up so we can have a structure of a camp that we can test out. And then again, by the next webinar, we're really going to polish it up. An important item here, attendance note, which will also be talked about next time. This is really important for specific merit badge reporting. So we don't have blue cards in the system, but we have a generated report that's like a blue card. And this attendance note, this text, and if you wanted to put a graphic, will show up on those reports. So keep that in mind. That's reporting is going to be part of our second webinar, but this is an option for that. So I'm going to come here and click save. So once I click save, I'm back to event management with my program tab. And you'll see my Camp Rogers Summer Camp 2021 in the list. So if I select that, I have all these additional options. So if I want to, I can always come back to edit program, and you'll see here's my program configuration page. So I can always come back and access this, and this will be very important as we go down the list. So let's go here. I'm going to click cancel. The next thing I'm going to do is build my first week of camp. So a couple important designations. We have new session on the top left and manage session events. So sessions are your weeks of camp, and session events are your merit badges in those weeks of camp. You only have to build the merit badges once because they automatically copy down to the additional weeks. But you do have to build multiple sessions for each week of camp that you're offering. So the first thing I'm going to do is select new session. And this should look very familiar to people that use Double Knot, because this is very much like building a calendar activity. This is where you're really building the cost structure, capacity options for the event. So this description is going to be week one. You know, this is specific to the week. So you want to put in here that this is week one of the camp. Now the date here, this now is really the first week of camp. So I said that this camp started on June 7th, but this end date is, again, this is the last day of specifically week one of camp. So it goes Monday to Saturday the 12th. That is week one of camp. Start time, again, you don't have to put a start time. A lot of people don't, because it is a week-long event and they're staying overnight at camp. There's not really a start time each day. If you want to, you definitely can set that date. We have the event details. So again, I'm not going to go through all these items. Again, I'm assuming that you have a base level knowledge of building events in Double Knot. And again, if you don't, please email support and we can take that conversation offline. Details is, again, this is where the specific details on the event landing page exist. So this is where you will put all the details about summer camp, payment options, any kind of details they would need before they sign up for week one. Again, we have an address function. You all know that. You can hide this from your calendar. So there's really two options. You can say, do not display on calendar, or if you want, you can turn it on test mode on. Some people with programs, they want to get all the way to the payment page. And so test mode doesn't allow you to do that. So some people will just hide it from the calendar and leave test mode off, or you can leave test mode on. That's totally your choice. Now, online registration details. So this is really where we build the cost structure of the event. So registration begin date. This is when camp week one is open for registration. And again, beyond this registration date, we control what the user sees through that edit program option. And again, we'll get back to that in a moment. But I'm going to say I want to open up registration on 1/10/2021. Now, the registration end date, this is when do you want to stop new registrations? Now that's important, new registrations, because people can update their registration beyond this date, but when do you want to stop new registrations? So I'm going to say no more new registrations past 5/1/2021. Cost is per. So normally for summer camps, it's going to be named registrant because it's a cost per person. But if for some reason, which is possible, you also have, it's 150 per scout, but we also are charging a flat troop fee of $100. You could do that with the per registration option. 99% of the time, it's just going to be is that my computer buzzing? 99% of the time, it's going to be named registrant. Just our history with Boy Scouts, that's what we normally see. You do use multiple costs though. So multiple costs allows you to do two things. It allows us to define registrant types, which is very important for summer camp. It also allows us to set multiple cost options, so different price levels. So for registrant types, normally what we have is we have adult leader, or actually we'll just set this to adult because it might not be technically a leader, it could be a volunteer parent. And then we have scouts. So you could break this down further. So you could say adult male, adult female, male scout, female scout. You can break this up any way you want. It's really, how do I want to collect my numbers? When I pull my reports, how do I want to see the breakdown of people attending camp? So for example, say we'll just leave that at adult and scouts. We set the pricing here. So I'll say for scouts, it's $325 a week, and for the adults, it's $175, whatever it is. We have minimum and maximum requirements here to the right. So you can see that I can say minimum per registration, maximum per registration. We also can set registrant ratios. That isn't on this space, but if you want to, you can do that. So we can say, you have to have 3 adults for every 10 scouts. We can set those options. We also have discounts here. So if you had a registration discount, meaning if you register by this date, you get a certain discount. So I can say, if you register before 2/1/2021, I'm going to give you $25 off the scout fee. Again, that just means if you register, each scout you register before this date, it's going to cost $300, not $325. So you have that option here. Minimum registrants per registration, maximum registrants per registration, and a maximum registrant. So you can set a minimum number per registration, a maximum number, but really the most important part here is maximum registrants. Maximum registrants is how many scouts per week for week 1 are we allowed? How many scouts and adults combined, excuse me. So I could say, there is a total capacity of 250. Now, if you wanted to break this down, you can use this max registrants field next to the registrant types. So you can say for adults, there is space for 50 and 200 scouts. You can always do that for any type of event you build in Double Knot. Min age and max age, it doesn't really apply to the scouting world so much, but you can set restrictions based on age in the Double Knot system. Members may, this again, just ignore that setting. Non-member registrations require. I'm going to set this to do not display email and telephone because I don't want to ask the scouts their email and telephone address. Again, a lot of this is just like your other event configurations. You have receipt contact info, receipt confirmation message. Modify registrants is a very important setting for BSA summer camp. So if I check this box and set a date here, basically what I'm telling the system is allow these scout leaders to log into Double Knot, and update their registration up until this date. So I can say up until 5/15/2021, allow leaders to log in and update their registration. And again, beyond this setting, it really you control what is available to them using that edit program checkboxes. So I'll say update changes allowed until 5/15. Log on sign on prompt. I always set this for Boy Scouts Summer Camp. I would always say require log on or create profile. The reason being is that you know that these leaders are going to have to log into the system to update the registration or make payment. So knowing that they're going to have to log in, it's better that they create or log into an existing profile before they register. Also, the scouts that they registered last year are going to be in the system, so they don't need to re-enter their information. So whenever I have an event where I know for a fact that someone's going to have, they're going to have to log in, you might as well require them to create a profile or to log into an existing profile. Payment type down at the bottom here, you can say pay online only, pay by mail, or both, whatever you would want. Deposit payments into. Now this is, of course, a very important setting. You always want to select an account where those funds are represented. So if you do not see your account in the list, then you need to build it in financial accounts, but it's always, of course, important to set a deposit payments into account so your funds are properly represented when your finance team goes to reconcile those payments for week 1 of camp. So I'm going to click save here. Once I click save, now I have my week 1 of camp. So let's jump back so we can kind of go through this and you can see visually where I'm at this point. So if I go to event management, under programs, I went to new program and I built the shell of Camp Rogers Summer Camp 2021. Then after I built the shell, I went to new session, and you'll see here now are my sessions. I have week 1 Camp Rogers Summer Camp. So I have my week 1 built. Each week has separate parameters. So as you saw, I can set registration begin date, registration end dates, when I can control, how I control when people can update, and so forth. We also have payment schedules within each week. So payment schedules are super important because it allows people to not pay the full amount up front. It allows you to control how people make payments. So if I go to payment schedules, there's 2 options for building a schedule. You can do it fixed dates, meaning I set a specific date, or days from the date of registration or activity. So that means, 30 days after you sign up, you owe us your second payment. For summer camps, BSA summer camps, we never really see that. It's always published like in the leader's guide, specific dates for registration. So what I'm going to do is just build a basic schedule so you can get the idea. Because again, I want you all to see how I'm doing this, but then interpret it for yourself and go in and build that. And again, in the second webinar, we'll have a Q&A, go through any of your questions. So if you have a specific schedule that you're struggling with, we'll figure it out. So let's say add schedule item 1. The first thing I'm going to do is just build a basic deposit. So the system allows you to really hone this in. You can say, I want to charge an amount per registrant. You can break it down per adult and scout. So a lot of our a number of our scout councils want to set, payment 1, you owe us 25 per scout on this date. They actually break it down to that level. You can also do a total percentage of the registration, and then you have these balance due and pay in full options. So I can say, I'm going to say amount deposit per registration, and I'm going to call this my deposit. And you know what? I'm going to do a percentage because I don't want to do just a single dollar amount. I'm going to do a deposit, and I'm going to say you owe us 20%, and I'm going to click this button to the far right that says at registration. So what I'm doing is it's saying I want a deposit of 20% at registration. I can say payment type 2. I can say, I'm not going to break it down to adults and scouts, but I'm going to say per person. So I'm going to say payment 1, and I'm going to say I want $25 per person. And what I'm going to set here is a late fee. So I'm going to charge $10 late fee if that's not paid by, let's get schedule M3. And I'm just going to add a balance due. So the balance due option, what this allows me to do is it automatically calculates the balance due. So I can say final payment here. And all I have to do is set a date. So I can say this final payment is due on, 5/15/2021. I always forget the 2021. And if I click save there, now you'll see I actually have a payment schedule built. And you'll see payment 1, deposit 20% of total registration due at registration. The second one is payment 1. So I'm saying $25 per person by 2/15. Otherwise, you get a $10 late fee per person. And then the final payment is due 5/15/2021. So if I go back into payment schedules, you can get quite crazy with these, right? You can build multiple, you can have payment 1, payment 2, payment 3. They could have late fees or discounts. So this is a really versatile part of the application that allows you to build almost any payment schedule you desire. So let's go back here. So now that I have my week 1 built, my payment schedule built, really the last item I want to build here is my merit badge schedule. And again, what I would recommend is go through the exact process we're doing. Build a week of camp, add a payment schedule. Next time we're going to add a form, and then build your merit badge classes, because once you build the merit badge classes, you're only building them one time. They will automatically copy down to each of your weeks of camp. Doesn't matter if you build them a week later or a month later, they're always going to automatically copy down to each week of camp and adjust their dates accordingly. So let's start with managed session events. So managed session events. So this is where we are building, this is really the essence of the program. So we are building now a place to add our merit badge classes to the system. So the first option you have is called new session event group. And think of this is a way to manage, to organize your merit badges. So you can do this a couple ways. You can do this under like type of badge. You can do it if you have block scheduling. You can say session 1, session 2, session 3, block 1, block 2, block 3. It's really a way to visually organize your merit badges. And again, you'll see this visualization, and you can always change it if you want. So session event group, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this by just types of badge. So I'll say arts. And I'm going to leave these dates because it's available the whole camp, and I'll say save. And I'm going to add aquatics. I'll save that one. And then I'll just add one more. For example, I'll put sports. And I'll save that. So now that I build my session event groups, and again, this is a visual way to organize your badges, and you will be able to see this, and if it's not the way you want, you can change the configuration. Again, some people do it how I have it, by type of badge, because it's going to be, how are your leaders going to sign their kids up for merit badges? Are they going to want to see this type of grouping, or are they going to want to see directly related to the leader's guide with, period 1, period 2, however you put it in your leader's guide? So that's really what you want to think about is doing that. How is it going to make the most sense to my leaders? So you can always edit or delete these. Once you've built session event groups, you can build session events. So if I go to the right here and click new session event, this is where I'm building my specific badges. So this is going to be art. Session event date. So what this means is this gives you the first week of camp. It always lists the first week of camp. So basically what this is saying is this is going to start on 6/8 and go through Friday 6/11. And what it will do is it will copy this badge when you build your following weeks. It will copy this to the applicable weeks on week 2 or days on week 2. So Tuesday to Friday. You also have a frequency option. So say that it's not every day 6/8 to 6/11. You can say custom here and build every instance of this class. So for example, it starts on 6/8, but the next one is going to be 6/9, so or 6/10. Sorry. So I can actually build custom dates for my session event. So if it's truly not in a row, you can actually build that here. So we can say this one's going to start early. It starts at 8 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. And same with this one, same time. But if it was a different time on 6/10, then you could set that here. And again, this is the same merit badge. They're the same class. So I'm not building a second version of art. This is the art merit badge for week 1. And these are the days that badge is. It's 6/8, it's on 6/10, and so forth. So you can build these custom instances. So I can say till, let's say 8 a.m., excuse me, until 9:30 a.m. So if I had another day, say it wrapped up on the 11th, I could add another instance for 6/11. Details, so this shows up on the registration page. So if you want to put some like prerequisite details, anything like that, you can put those details here. Really, most importantly, is the course completion requirements. So this is where you can select course completion requirements, and we map the merit badge requirements into Double Knot. And what you'll see in our next webinar is really how to use that. So we can report on completion requirements in Double Knot. So you can actually enter in what each scout completed at camp and then report on that data. But in order to do that, you need to tell the system which requirements to use. So we'll do art, for example. We have registration begin and end date, and that just copies down from the week. So I would always leave that as is. If there's an additional cost, so there's our merit badges, like art may have a $5 supply fee. So you can add a $5 cost if they sign up for this merit badge. You also have max registrants. So this is very important. So we can say there's a max of 25 kids per in the art merit badge for week 1. You also have a wait list. So if you want to add a wait list functionality, you can do that as well. And then the modify registrants, this copies down from the session as well. So if I click save here, now you'll see here's my art merit badge. And if I want to, I can take that and actually copy it. So I could say, I want to copy this and I'm going to change this to basketry and leatherwork. We'll do that. I'm going to say copy. So what I can then do is once I've copied it, I can edit it and actually set, maybe it's not custom, it's just once. And it's going to be from 6/8 to 6/11, from 10 a.m. to 11:30. And the requirements, what I'm going to put in here is, what do I call it? Basketry and leatherwork. Okay, so if I want to go to basketry, I can add basketry. I can also, if I want to, add leatherwork. So these are separate requirements, but they are assigned to one merit badge class. So we can separately track each of the merit badges with, even though it's one class, it's a combined badge, and we want the set requirements for each one. You can have different maximum registrants. Maybe say for this one, there's 35 people. I can save that. I can say, now I can say, I want to build a sports merit badge. So I can select sports and I can build, archery. and it's going to be from 6/8 to 6/11, and it's going to be from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And we come down here and I can select archery as my requirements. Archery, we're not going to charge anything additional for archery, and the class has a total number of 20 with a 10-person wait list. And I can save that. And I can build another one. So let's copy this and let's call it rifle and shotgun. And I can say, oh, and I can say copy. And let's edit this one, and we'll say this one is from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. And it is going to be the same 6/8 to 6/11, but I want to make sure that I add shotgun, and I want to add, let's add one more for rifle. So I add both of those requirements. I can, again, select how many registrants I want to allow in there, and I can say save. So really what you can do is you can comment and add, whatever badges you need to add. And I added these under the incorrect one, so let's rename this. Let's go here, and I can say edit. And actually, let's do this. I'll just, for example's sake, I'm just gonna add 2 for time's sake. And then I can come in here and change this, not from aquatics, but arts and crafts. Save that correctly. Okay, so now I have my session event groups. I have arts and crafts, I have sports, and really this is data entry from this point, right? Because now you're really just entering in your merit badge schedule into Double Knot. So again, you can build as many session event groups as you want. You can build as many session events under those groups as you need until your merit badge guide is built fully in Double Knot. Once that's built, then it's really going to be part 2 of the webinar. We're going to go through how to add a form, how to test, how to go with our go live checklist, kind of just polishing up this program. But what I do want to show you lastly here is kind of how to test this and what to look for, and talk about some wrap-up items before we meet next time. So again, the goal of this is for you all to kind of mimic this setup for your summer camp. And when we meet in 2 weeks, again, we dive into part 2 where we really talk about, okay, now that we have this shell built, how do we add the rest of our weeks, and how do we add our forms so we're collecting all of our information, and then what is my checklist? What do I have to go through before I can go live with this program? And we'll briefly talk about reporting as well. So let's go to my week 1 here, and I'm going to take this URL at the top of my page. And what I always do is it's important to always go to a different browser so you can actually see this camp. And sorry, let me put in the correct URL. I got to change it to my stage URL. Hold on 1 second. So let me go here and change my URL. Okay, so once I go to my page here, you're going to see this is the landing page for week 1. And again, like we talked about, it's fairly bland because if I enter details, this would appear on that page. So you'll see I'm on this page here. I'm going to say register, and it's going to say, do you want to log on or create a new profile? And again, we talked about this. We do this so that our users can create a profile and actually have their data preloaded or know that information so that they can come back and update the registration. So I'll say create new profile, and I'll say create a password. I got my user ID. And now I go into my group registration. So this is our group registration information under utilities. So I can say this is troop 123, my address, my postal code. And I can say continue. So now you'll see here, you'll see my placeholder for text that appears on this page, but this is the first page where we control what is available to the users. So they're always going to see the option for who's coming, because that allows them to name individuals or just give you a number of people attending. But what are they doing is different, because this is where you can control if this shows up. So for example, let's go to who's coming. Now this is going to allow me to say, okay, how many adults and how many scouts? And for time's sake, I'm not going to put the full number, but I can say, okay, adult 1 is Fred, and this is going to be Jamie Fred and Kyle Fred. And now that I've provided the names of those scouts, I can say continue. Now register by individual. So this button, again, I'm going to jump back and forth a little bit here, but bear with me because I want you to get this visual. I think that's important before we wrap up and meet next time. Is on the edit program page, you'll see that the what are they doing directly corresponds to activity sign up. So if I didn't want them to see activity sign up because merit badges aren't open yet, I just want them to provide the names of the people, check out, and pay my deposit. You can uncheck that box and it will not display to them. And the only thing they see is who's coming and check out. So I just want to collect their names. Maybe I want to collect some form info, and then I want them to check out and pay. And then once I have my registrations built out, I'm going to email all of them and tell them, hey, log in and now you can sign up for merit badges, or merit badge opens on this date and time. So you control that availability. You also, the scheduling conflicts, you control that as well on that page. So, but if I say, what are they doing? It's going to go to the page where they actually sign up for merit badges. So you can select an individual scout and then select what badges you want them to sign up for. And remember I told you when we were building the session events, you can choose how you want these to display. So you'll see here I chose Jamie Fred, and it's going to say, okay, choose activities in category. So you can't, and I have arts and crafts and sports, but you could have period 1, period 2, block 1, block 2, however you want to organize these. And I can say, okay, well, Jamie wants to sign up for art, and under sports, she wants to do rifle and shotgun. And then for Kyle's going to do archery, and Kyle's going to do archery and also basketry and leatherwork. Basically, what the scout leader does is it chooses each scout and then builds their individual schedule. You also have custom instructions on this page. So you'll see where it says assign individuals to activity. That's kind of generic, but you can customize that text on this page here. So this text is what shows up on that page. So you can customize that as well. And again, we'll get into that when we meet next time, because that's kind of polishing up the program and how it works. So once the leader builds those schedules, they can say continue, and then you can go to checkout. And this is an important step so you can see the payment schedule. So you'll see here the amount to pay now is $157. They have the option now, and this is very important. This was not available last year. This is a new feature that we built in for Scout summer camps, is auto charge my next payments. So you can actually auto charge payments, and which is a really good feature. So they can, if they check this box, it's going to auto charge their payments accordingly to your schedule, 75 on 2/15, and then the balance due 5/15/21. They also can pay, they don't have to pay 157, they can pay any amount above the minimum amount due. They also could just say, I want to pay in full. You'll see a breakdown to the left, right? You'll see the early discount for each of these scouts. We built that early discount before 2/1. You'll also see basketry and leatherwork has a $5 fee, so that's listed. So it will give them a subtotal, amount to pay now, and then list other options such as would you like to auto charge or would you like to pay in full? So they have these capabilities are now built in to the Boy Scout summer camp setup. So I'm going to go through some questions now. I see a couple here. So someone asked about limits to merit badge classes due to COVID. So that would really be the capacity setting. So on each session event, you can set a capacity, and maybe you have to do it where you have multiple art merit badges. You may have with smaller capacities, but you can always control capacity on the merit badge or session event using that capacity setting. Is it possible to create two events that overlap? Yeah, I mean, you can create events that overlap. The issue is that if you allow them to check for scheduling conflicts, it's going to throw up a scheduling conflict. But they can sign up for overlapping classes. It's just you have to be careful with how you set your check for scheduling conflicts, because it could be confusing if they see that. Can you save the templates for next year's summer camp? Absolutely. So you can come back to, if I'm on, I have the feature list here, and I go to event management, these are always available to copy. So you can click next year, you could click like the past button and go to click Summer Camp 2020, and there's this copy program option. So you can copy it for next year. How do online registration detail prices relate to the payments schedule? So online registration details. I believe you're thinking about hopefully the session itself. So the payment schedule always directly looks at the price you set on the session or the week of camp. So the system knows that it's $325 per scout, $300 before 2/1, and $175 per adult. So it's always going to calculate off of these prices. So the system knows what each group owes you and then calculates the payment schedule off of that. How can reports be printed by Scout to show what merit badge they completed at camp? That will be in our next, in the webinar in 2 weeks. So we're really going to show you reporting options. And if we have the demand, we might do a third webinar, just like a Q&A, a BSA Q&A webinar. We'll see kind of the number of questions that come in on webinar 2. But again, webinar 2, we're really going to focus on adding a form, adding additional sessions or weeks of camp. We're going to go through reporting options. So we'll talk about merit badge reports, and then we're going to give you a go live checklist. And then from that point, if we have the demand, we can set up a third webinar for just Q&A. I'm not sure it's going to be necessary, but we'll play that one by ear. So I appreciate everyone attending this webinar. This will be posted in the training video section either today or tomorrow. You will also get an email about the follow-up webinar in the next couple of days. So we're going to set that up, and that's going to be on the 2nd. So we will set that up. You will all be emailed that link directly. I'm going to send it to everyone that attended this webinar, so you'll get that. If you have any questions between now and the next time we meet, again, I would love for you all to try to get in there and set up a program just like this, but tailored to your camp. If you have any questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to email into support@doubleKnot.com. I appreciate it, everyone, and hopefully I will see you in 2 weeks at our second webinar. Thank you.